ASMR.
No ASMR. We're doing a Q&A. So, let's get started. Okay. The first question is, what are some of the best ways you can support someone with a chronic illness? What do you feel?
I feel like going to like appointments or treatments or whatever you have to do and like being there no matter what, but also like at home, not being embarrassed about it, I feel like is also another thing. Like if you're out in public, like she has POTS and she can pass out. So I feel like being there for you when you're in public or at home, like when you pass out or if you're having like a bad day with health, like not being embarrassed to help in ways that you would need help.
I like that answer. I would say probably the same thing. And I feel like one of my biggest things is making sure like that I am not embarrassed, Like the other night we went to Target and I had to sit on the floor in Target because I was dizzy and I didn't feel good. And I was apologizing because I was embarrassed. And so in return, I felt like he was embarrassed, but he wasn't. And he was telling me that he wasn't embarrassed and stuff like that. So I feel like that is a big one. Okay. The next question is, how involved in my treatments are you?
I feel like it depends. Like if it's like a day-to-day kind of easy appointment, I feel like I don't always go unless it's like a serious thing, like either surgery or like you're really nervous for an appointment or like somebody else needs to be there who's in your day-to-day life to understand what's going on. Then I feel like I go. But like if it's a normal like checkup, I'm not really there. Like I'll if like I'll be texting her and like asking, but I'm at work, and so I feel like that's kind of how involved I am.
I'd say if he didn't have to go to work and he would still get paid for it, he would be at every single appointment that he would get paid for.
Probably.
But unfortunately, he can't miss work. I mean, like, obviously, because I don't work. And so we need our ice maker is sounding like a monster. So we need his income. And most of the time, my mom goes with me because she's really good about, okay, these are the questions we have. We ask the questions. These are the answers we got for the questions and stuff like that. But he definitely is always at procedures, always at important like appointments. Oh my gosh. So, yeah. Are we planning on getting married in the near future, or are we planning to stay engaged for the time being?
Marriage.
And by that, he means we get married on June 25th of this year. And we are very excited. And we have been engaged for over a year now. We got engaged last December.
Yeah.
We have been engaged since December 14th of 2023. And the reason we did a longer engagement is because we knew it was going to be a while. We knew it was going to take a while to, plan this wedding.
And figure out some health stuff, hopefully, but so far not a whole lot has come into pass.
Yeah.
But
So,
like when we got engaged, you still had your feeding tube
my
through
NG.
your NG, and so she didn't really want to get married while having that. And so when she got her surgery for it, I feel like was a big stepping stone to actually get married and set a date.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah, I was very adamant that I did not want a nasal tube when we got married because I didn't feel pretty with my nasal tube. I felt very self-conscious, but I mean also people stare. So like how else am I supposed to feel when people are staring at me, Um okay, the next question is, do I have / need a caregiver? I would say I don't need a caregiver, but Connor plays that role in my life where he is very much like my caregiver, and I have never even asked him to take that role. He himself has taken that role upon himself. And I think that's just part of like stuff with his mom as well, because his mom has a lot of the same conditions that I also have.
yeah.
And so he has played a caregiver role in her life, as well as for his older brother, who also has some stuff going on. And so I feel like he naturally just took that on. What do you think?
What was the question?
Do I have slash need a caregiver?
Oh, I feel like it would be nice to have somebody who could come in and like check on you. Obviously, we have our roommate, but she doesn't fully understand like all of the health issues going on. So I feel like having somebody who could come in and like make sure you're, doing stuff with your tube and like how your heart is doing that day and like overheating and stuff like that. And then, but I feel like on like days where I can be here or I am here most of the day, not really, but like on a day to day, maybe like once a day, a check in would be kind of nice. But obviously, that's expensive and we're already struggling with a lot of um, healthcare stuff right now. So getting somebody covered by that through insurance would be,
Whole other ordeal.
yeah. So I feel like yes and no.
That's the protective side of him. He feels that. Okay. Next question. What
You're
is
skipping?
no?
Oh, you're
I'm scrolling. The questions are on my iPad so that I can see them. Okay. What is it like to be engaged to somebody with a chronic illness? You don't need to put it that close to your face.
I feel like I don't know. It's definitely a challenge with, I mean, like you said, passing out in public places.
He said I'm a challenge, guys.
Yeah, but in other ways too. But um I don't know. I feel like it's a challenge. Like I grew up with a lot of health issues with my family and myself. So it's not like completely crazy for me in my life. Like it's not like a whole new like game plan, I guess. Where like, on a normal person, like our roommate or any of our friends, they don't really understand what it is to live with someone who has health issues like this. And so I feel like growing up with my mom having very similar things, with you and my brother having very similar things in some ways, it helps a lot to like cope with it and like figure out what in the heck we're doing. But it also definitely is a challenge to have somebody who can't, walk all day, every day, or go do crazy adventurous things and like always having to check your heart rate and like your blood sugar, stuff like that. I definitely think it's different. So
Well said. Okay. The next question, a little backstory to this next question. I was not diagnosed with any of the conditions that I am diagnosed with currently when Connor and I first got together. Connor and I have been best friends for 7 years at this point. He's counting to check my math. And I was not diagnosed with any of these conditions when we had first gotten together. I was going to the doctor for these stuff to figure out what was going on, but I got diagnosed after we had already become like an official couple. Um, and so that like pertains to this next question. Can you please? They can't hear that. And I'm going to cut it out anyway. So the next question is, how did you feel learning that I was chronically ill?
ASMR.
No. Answer the question.
How did I feel?
Yeah, how did you feel learning I was chronically ill?
Absolutely terrified.
Ditto.
I feel like it was a big shock because, like I've said, I mean, I grew up with a lot of these health issues, like to the T, like the EDS, the POTS, like not. She doesn't have diabetes, my mom does, but like her blood sugar being all whack and like her not being able to eat a whole lot of food and stuff like that. I feel like it was weird because it almost felt like deja vu with my mom, like growing up, because I've been dealing with crazy health issues like this since I was like 6.
He turns 21 in 4 days.
4 days, yeah. So a long time.
It's January 4th when we film this. BT dubs.
Yeah. Um, so I feel like it was a shock, not to the health issue part, but figuring out that you had said health issues was really weird because, like, I mean, EDS is just a really weird thing to deal with because I have it as well. I don't know if she's ever said that, but I have EDS. And so, like, finding somebody with EDS, like, I always grew up with, like, just me, my mom, my brother having it, and then finding her. And now there's, like, all sorts of other people that we know that have it. And it's just a weird, like, concept. So I feel like it was definitely really weird, very scary for sure. Because, I mean, I have EDS, but it's not as bad as what yours has come to.
Yeah.
And so being so young and having it and having to deal with everything that we've already had to deal with was definitely a little crazy. But I mean, it's definitely grown us a lot closer than I would have thought because of having to go to all the doctor's appointments and surgeries. I mean, I don't even know how many months we had started dating when I went to your first surgery.
I think like 6 maybe.
Yeah,
6
maybe
months?
6 months, which doesn't sound like super early, but to go to somebody's open heart surgery,
It was an open heart surgery.
whatever it was, heart surgery was weird.
Yeah.
But because I hate hospitals because I grew up in hospitals basically, and so yeah, I definitely think it was scary. It was nice to find somebody who actually has it, but like having it as a spouse is weird. So
That's fair. To piggyback onto that question for him, kind of like how I felt being diagnosed. I mean, I have been a sporty child my entire life. I danced for 13 years, 14 years,
I don't know,
something like that,
a long time,
a long time. And so for it to like, I just gave him my haircut today. So he's checking himself
like
out.
10 minutes ago.
Yeah. Um, and so, so for this kind of to arise and like change my whole life. Like I quit dance because of it. I was going to continue dancing after I had graduated high school, but I ended up quitting because it was just so hard on my body that it hurt. And I just was always getting injured. And so I feel like it really shook my earth, my life, my my earth. It shook my world. That's what I was trying to say. It just really shook me. And we always say in my family, it's a joke, we always say that we thought my sister was going to be the medical child because my sister had open heart surgery when she was in the 8th grade for something called VSD. And shortly after that, I then started to have like more issues come about. And so, yeah. Anyways, next question. What are some of your biggest fears with me being chronically ill slash disabled?
Um, our kids having it because we plan on having kids.
That was one of the questions.
Sorry,
We'll get there when we get
I'm not reading these questions. I can barely read that far. Um, so I feel like our future is definitely going to be different than most people's. I mean, it already has been, as our relationship has already been very different from other people. Um, so I feel like future with like family, kids, and like having a house, having jobs, like all of that kind of stuff, like a thing that people like obviously have thoughts about, but not as in depth that we have to, like whether or not she's going to be able to have a job in the future or be a stay-at-home mom, not just because of having kids, but of having health issues and being disabled with those said health issues. So I feel like that is a very big fear, but also like what you have to come to term with your spouse having health issues, as in like how it's going to affect her day to day. Stop biting your nails. Like with her health and her weight and eating and being able to do normal things like cooking, cleaning. Like I'm not saying that's your only job, but like being
Get
home,
in the kitchen.
like being home so much, like that is what you do a lot, is you do cook and clean and be around the house. And if you're going to be able to do any sort of thing in 5, 10, 15, 20 years, what that's going to look like is definitely challenging to think about. Because like with my mom, she like when she first started, her health was really bad, and like your health has slowly started to get to where her bad point is, and she's turned around a lot. Like her health has gotten a lot better, but like yours has slowly been like more degrading and degrading rather than getting better. And so I feel like trying to find doctors is a big concern, and to try to find somebody who's actually willing and able to help and not treat you like a guinea pig like it has been so far. I definitely think is a very big concern.
Yep. Well, since he kind of just tapped into one of the questions that is in this list, one of the questions is, what are our thoughts on having kids along with having these genetic conditions? Because along with everything that I have, Connor also carries a lot of genes that could pass a lot of genetic conditions like diabetes. We both have cancer that runs in the family. I have eye stuff that runs in the family. I obviously have EDS. He also has EDS. Surprisingly, though, with EDS, our child has a 50-50 chance of having EDS versus not having EDS.
Which is weird.
Genetics are really weird. But I myself, I know a lot of people that have chronic illness that have a lot of genetic conditions. One of their big things is they do not want to bring a child into this world and pass them these conditions and their child's life be miserable.
Yeah.
And we have had thought conversation after conversation after conversation about this, and we want children. We want to have kids, whether that is biologically from us or if that is us adopting. We want to become foster parents possibly. We want to adopt or foster, but either way we want a family.
Yeah.
No matter what, we have always wanted a family, and it's always been a big thing for us is we want a family, even though it took Connor a while to come around to the idea of having kids because kids scare him. But
They're gross.
he said they're
They're
gross.
sticky.
Yet they are sticky. But getting to raise a human, you can't tell me that that is not.
Scary.
But so that's kind of my thought is, as I know there's so many people in this world that don't want to bring a kid into this world with the possibility of having a chronic condition. But here's the thing, everybody in the world has a possibility of becoming disabled, becoming chronically ill. I mean, think about it. At the end point of life, everybody's disabled. Think about it. Everybody is disabled by the time they die. You know, like you don't just like you're not just perfect and wealthy and healthy and thriving facts and healthy and thriving every day up until the very day you die, the second you die. There is something going, whether you know it or not, there's something going on. That's why you die, you know. And so I feel like to have that fear of, okay, but what if well, here's the thing, I'm a CNA, I have my CNA license, I've worked with plenty of chronically ill disabled children, and those kids are some of the happiest kids I've ever seen. Those They have so much love and joy in their hearts, and they have experienced so much love, and I would risk giving my child EDS and get to have this child flourish and thrive than to never get to experience what a family is like.
Yeah.
And EDS doesn't affect everybody the same way, you know? Like my EDS nowhere near affects Connor's EDS the way that mine does. And so it's like there's a chance, sure, our child could be born with EDS, but they could be just like Connor, where it barely affects them, you know? But yes, there is the chance where they could be like me.
Yeah.
But I don't feel like that should ever stop us from truly like wanting a child, you know?
Yeah.
Like I would understand if it's a something that's not compatible with life type situation, I would completely understand that. You know, like if that child is going to be born and it's going to live to 6 years old and it's going to die, and we know that we will 100% pass that gene onto a child, I could completely understand that because
Yeah.
that is terrible. That would be awful for not only the child but also for you, you know. But our conditions are compatible with life. I'm 19, he's almost 21. His mom is in her 40s.
Mhm.
40s with EDS, and she's thriving as much as she can be. with her type of EDS and with all the comorbidities that she has,
What?
comorbidities, the other conditions that she has along with EDS, she's thriving, you know. So, any thoughts to add?
No, I think.
I think I covered it.
Yeah.
Okay. Next question is, what was it like to get my feeding tube placed? Well, let me tell you, that was a week from hell. Honestly, a month from hell.
Yeah.
It was so painful.
You're talking about your
My
surgical one. Yeah, okay.
so I've had three different types of feeding tubes. I've had an NG, an NJ, and now I have a GJ. And when I got my GJ placed, it was so awful and painful. I barely remember being in the hospital. I remember my nurse telling me the second day we were there, telling me I needed to get out of the bed. I was on heavy pain medication, along with having to be on oxygen because of how much pain I was in. I needed oxygen because I couldn't breathe because I was in so much pain. And then my nurse comes in and she says, "Okay, Marissa, we're going to get up and we're going to walk to the bathroom," because the bathroom on the ward was not in my room. It was in like the main ward area. And so my dad and Connor are there with me. They go out in the hallway. My nurse is getting me like to sit up. Mind you, I'm sobbing. Like, was I screaming or was I just like sobbing uncontrollably?
You were at like mid between like sobbing and screaming, but like mind you, she had what was your second day?
Mhm.
Literally, maybe was awake and somewhat alert for maybe an hour out of those 48 hours. And then her nurse came in and was like forcing her out of her bed. And like she had barely been able to like sit up. Like I don't think you were even sitting up. I think
I
the bed,
was.
yeah, but like not on your own. Like the
No, I
bed
was
was
because I
sitting
was
you up. Did it die?
no. So I did get sitting up. I was turned on the side of the bed with my legs hanging off of
Oh
the
yeah.
bed, sobbing uncontrollably.
Yeah.
I still had my pulse ox off, but she had taken the oxygen off. My oxygen was dropping and dropping and dropping and dropping to the point where
It was beeping.
to the
Like
yeah, it was
constantly.
beeping and there was a guy nurse out in the nurse's station, and I remember my dad and Connor telling me that the guy nurse asked if I was okay, and they were like, "Yeah, they're just trying to get her out of the bed. They're just trying to get her to move." And he came into the room. I remember him coming into the room and yelling at the nurse and telling her to put me back in the bed and put the oxygen back on me because my O2 had dropped so low that he's shocked I did not pass out. He literally was like, "She needs to get back in the bed, this," and then 5 minutes later he came in with pain medication for me. I alternated pain medication every 2 hours. The only time I slept was after I was given my pain medication. I
It
was in
knocked you
so,
out.
yeah, it knocked me out. But it was the only way I could sleep. Without it, I was in so much pain I couldn't sleep. And then when I got discharged 4 or 5 days later after my tube was placed, I was originally just supposed to be there for 24 hours. And then it turned into a 4 or 5 day stay because I was in so much pain and they couldn't figure out why I was in so much pain. And then finally, I got sent home, and they were gonna send me originally. They were gonna send me home with Dilaudid, or
Mm-hmm.
no, Oxy. They were gonna send me with Oxy.
Yeah, that was Oxy.
And then a nurse came in and she told me they don't send people on Oxy, so they're gonna send me home on gabapentin instead. We had told them at the beginning, no gabapentin for pain management. I do not want gabapentin. We do not like gabapentin in this family. And I was like, no, we have a strict no gabapentin thing in my chart. And she was like, oh, well, then you'll be fine on Tylenol. I'm
How do you
sorry.
go from Oxy to Tylenol?
No, literally. Like how do we drastically change from a heavy pain medication to Tylenol? Like so I think 2 days after I had been discharged from the hospital, Connor had to take me to the emergency room because I was in so much pain. I was sobbing and crying and just it was awful. It
Was it
was
2 days?
terrible. It was 2 days after I got my tube
Yeah.
placed. It was so bad. And unfortunately, I still have issues with it. It's awful. Okay, next question. How does Connor manage his feelings and emotions about the things I go through on the daily?
What feelings? I'm a man. I'm just kidding. um, it's a hard question.
It doesn't need to be that close to you.
Um, I don't really know. I feel like it's been very challenging for sure to figure out how to manage emotions just because like we keep going back to, and I'm sorry that I keep going back to it, but like with how similar it is with growing up, I mean, it was very traumatizing from being a 7, 6, 7, 8 year old. I don't remember exactly.
7, 6, 7, 8 years. Wow. You were three
To
whole
go
different
through
ages.
very similar things. Like it wasn't as drastic because we had already been kind of dealing with some of your health issues a little bit, but it was like we just didn't know what it was.
Mhm.
But I feel like having some people who have gone through somewhat similar things helps for sure, and like people who kind of understand somewhat of the medical field helps. Um, but it is very challenging for sure to figure out how to deal with someone going through a crazy amount of health issues and crazy amount of trauma with all of this. So I feel like talking about it for sure helps. Like even stuff like this helps, but like talking to your spouse or talking to like a really good friend that you can just like lean on helped and helps for sure. Just to be able to like process like what is going on and how to deal with that. So I think having people who somewhat understand somewhat of a medical field helps. And like for me, going through a lot of what is happening helps just because I understand a lot more than what a normal person would. And so, yeah, I think that's definitely a helpful thing to deal with.
Good answer. Okay, this video is getting long, so we're gonna come back for a part 2. So make sure to watch that, and make sure to subscribe to my channel.
Yeah, because TikTok is going down probably. So subscribe so that she has more viewers and subscribers. I don't know. I don't do this stuff.
And make sure to like this video, leave a comment on what your favorite chip is.
Chip?
Yeah, like chip.
Like
Chip.
specific type
Yeah.
of chip?
What's your favorite type of chip?
Salt and vinegar chips.
But like brand.
Ooh. Kettle.
Mine is Popcorners sea salt. I'm obsessed. And they drain out of your G tube, G portion of your GJ. So good. Also, make sure to hit that notification bell so you get notified every single time a new video gets uploaded. Love ya.
Yeah, losers.
Bye.
Bye.
I got some color back. She thinks so too. I'm almost me again. She's almost you.